As I grow and learn more about my deen, I find myself falling in love with it. The beauty of Islam, the peace it brings, the way it just answers every question in life. And the more I learn, the more I want to hold on to it, to live by it in a way that truly reflects what it means to be a Muslim. But sometimes it's hard. We live in a time where holding on to our faith feels like holding on to burning coal, just like how the Prophet ﷺ described. Everything around us, social media, entertainment, trends, constantly shifts our focus away from Allah. That's why I love Ramadan. For once, it feels like the whole world slows down and everyone is focused on getting closer to Allah. But I also fear its end because I don't want to lose this connection. I don't want to go back to old habits, to feeling distant, to letting the world, like take over again. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode of Getting into the Human's Mind. I'm your host, Habiba Kafafi. We're now in the we're in the 16th of Ramadan, halfway through Ramadan. SubhanAllah, it feels like a roller coaster. It's been going by quite fast, I would say. But Alhamdulillah, today we are in our second episode of the Ramadan series. Hopefully this continues by the end of Ramadan. And today's episode is about being Muslim in this era, in this time, where distractions are everywhere. How do we hold on to our deen when everything around us is pulling us away? And how can we make Ramadan more than just 30 days? How can we make it a turning point? So, as I've said at the beginning of the episode, is that we live in a very dangerous and tricky time, where holding on to our faith feels like holding on to burning coal, just like how the Prophet ﷺ described. Everything around us, social media, entertainment, and all that, it constantly shifts our focus from Allah. The things that were once clearly wrong and prohibited in Islam are starting to slowly become normalized. Music, inappropriate content, and influences that just push us away from our values have started to become everywhere. Even if you're just scrolling through your phone, unfortunately you're bound to see or hear things that don't necessarily align with your faith. Even a small trip to the mall, it exposes you to things you're trying to avoid. And that's why fitna is all around us. And avoiding it sometimes feels like it's nearly impossible. But here's the thing. Ramadan proves us that we can resist it. In these 30 days that comes once a year, in these 30 days, we try to hold back as much as we possibly could. We protect our eyes from seeing anything inappropriate, anything that could anger Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We protect our ears from music. We protect our ears from backbite. And we protect our hearts from any bad intentions. And we start to replace these bad habits with good ones. And for once, the struggle feels lighter. Why, you might ask? Simply because we're all in this together. We're all trying to aim for the same thing. And when you see everyone around you thriving for the same purpose, it becomes more encouraging. I once came across this post on Instagram, kind of like a thread, and it was basically the purpose of the post was it shows you things that we do in Ramadan um, that shows that, like, for instance, trying to sacrifice or trying to, like, not sacrifice, I would say, but like trying your best to wake up for suhoor shows that you can wake up for fajr. Like, you know what I mean? Like, trying to push yourself through and wake up for suhoor, it shows that you can do the same thing outside of Ramadan. So basically, the purpose of the thread shows that the things that you push yourself through to do in Ramadan shows that you can do it outside of Ramadan for other things. And as the example that I told you, it's like, for example, waking up for suhoor, you can actually wake up for fajr. And staying up for Taraweeh shows that you can stay up for Qiyam al-Layl. And fasting on its own, it shows that you can control your nafs, and you can control your intentions, and you can just control yourself. So the purpose of the thread was to tell you that Ramadan is not just about a station. It's not a religious station that comes once a year. It's something that shows you that if you're able to do it in these 30 days, so could you do it for the rest of the year. And the end of the thread, it says that if you live your world, your dunya, your world. If you live in this dunya, if you live your life, yes, if you live your life or this in this dunya as if it's Ramadan, your akhirah will be Eid. And I honestly feel like that's the most beautiful thing that I came across, and that post just kind of like hung with me up until now, and it's something I don't think I'll forget. And I will be consistently reminded of if I want to wake up for Fajr, if I want to stay for Qiyam al-Layl. I feel like it would be beautiful if you approach the rest of the year as if it's Ramadan. The only issue is that those around you are not necessarily doing it, so you might not feel encouraged. But what happens when Ramadan ends? Why do we easily return to our old ways? To answer that question, we need to take a step back and reflect. It's easy to feel spiritually uplifted during Ramadan when we're surrounded by an environment that encourages good deeds. The masajid are full, the Quran is recited often, and there is a general sense of community. But when Ramadan ends, unfortunately, all of these practices feel like they vanish, and it's easy to feel disconnected once again. So, what's the key? How do we solve this? The key to keeping our connection with Allah strong is to create an environment that supports our faith all year long. And that doesn't mean we need to do everything perfectly or at the same intensity as Ramadan, but we need to keep consistent habits, small consistent habits that nurture our spirituality. Small consistent actions matter more than just temporary bursts of effort. And it's about finding what best works for you. That could possibly be like reading the Quran daily, trying to approach the Quran and not just neglecting it throughout the year and approaching it during Ramadan is something very crucial. I was asked once in my halaqah if I was the type of person that is reminded daily by the Quran and approaches it and read it even if it was one page, or do I approach it every here and there? And unfortunately, my answer was every here and there because sometimes I get too caught up with worldly matters that I sometimes forget like reading or approaching the Quran. Like maybe only on Fridays during halaqa times, and then throughout the whole week I would just forget. So try to maybe change that habit, or maybe I will try to maybe change that habit to kind of approach it on daily basis, even if it's just one small verse. That would make a huge difference. And as we know in a hadith, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من قرأ حرفا من كتاب الله فله به حسنة والحسنة بعشر أمثالها. So for example, ألف لام ميم حرف ولكن ألف حرف ولام حرف وميم حرف. So which means whoever recites a letter from the book of Allah, he will receive a hasana, a good deed for it. And the hasana is multiplied by 10. So it's not just alif, lam, mim, one letter. It's rather alif, a letter, lam, a letter, and mim, a letter. So imagine if you just opened the book of Quran and read alif, lam, mim, the amount of hasanas, the amount of good deeds and rewards you're getting. So imagine if you take that a step further and read a surah or a whole ayah, the amount of hasanats or rewards you'd be getting. And another action or practice that we could try to keep consistent is, first and foremost, is maintaining the regularity of your prayers. Some of us, they try their best to be as, let's say, strict with their prayers, try to prioritize it during Ramadan. But once they're out of Ramadan, they start slacking off, as some would say. Their prayers would not be as prioritized as it was in Ramadan. But little do they know that your prayers still have the same importance as it did in Ramadan. So trying to maintain them is something very crucial to keep in mind. Another thing is trying to simply stay away from distractions that could possibly harm your relationship with Allah. So one thing, for instance, something that you should keep in mind as you're doing any of your daily, work, routine, whatsoever, try to question yourself, does this harm my relationship with Allah? If I say this, would it harm my relationship with Allah? If I do this certain thing, will it harm my relationship with Allah? Know that Allah, sometimes I feel like we forget this, but know that Allah is watching you everywhere you go. And you have the angels writing and noting and documenting everything in every action that you do. So I feel like when you kind of refresh that memory, or refresh that thought in mind, it kind of make you think twice before you do something. Another thing is تجديد النية, is renewing your intentions as you do something. Renew your intention when you're helping someone, and renew your intention as you're going to school or to uni. Renew your intentions when you're going out with your friend. Every time you renew your intention and you do something for the sake of Allah, you get rewarded by it. So imagine the amount of rewards you get just by renewing your intention as you're doing something. So to break it down, okay, let's break it down together. I kind of broke it down to 4 points. How can you possibly carry Ramadan? Carry? That sounds like I said curry. Okay. How can you possibly carry Ramadan spirituality beyond these 30 days? So first of all, you need to identify what brought you closer to Allah. So during Ramadan, we naturally make an effort to be better. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself, what specifically made you feel closer to your deen during these 30 days? Was it reading Quran daily? Was it making these extra du'as, supplication? Was it reducing distractions like music or excessive screen time? Or maybe going out to certain places? So the key here is to find what changed for you during Ramadan and commit to keeping it, at least if one habit, going on after Ramadan. If you can't read a whole juz of Quran daily after Ramadan, maybe, as I said, try to approach the Quran and read just few ayahs. If you can't pray every salat, the masjid, try to at least maybe pray Fajr there or Isha. And always keep in mind that small, consistent actions matter more than temporary bursts of effort. I know it will be hard at the very beginning after Ramadan, because usually when we get off Ramadan, we feel like we're burnt out, or sometimes we feel like we're defeated, or maybe exhausted, or depressed. So at the beginning, it might feel difficult if you're not really used to doing that. But slowly, after maintaining these consistent actions, I assure you, you will get the hang of it eventually. Now, second is to control your inputs. One of the biggest challenges of staying close to Islam, your deen, is what we allow into our minds and hearts. For instance, social media, TV shows, and music are designed to capture our attention. And before we know it, they start shaping our thoughts and habits. SubhanAllah, this is how dangerous and risky they could possibly be. And we can easily get manipulated by them. We can't always control what's around us, but we can choose what we consume. So maybe try unfollowing pages that pull you away from your deen and replacing them with beneficial ones. Like, for instance, reduce mindless scrolling and replace it with meaningful content like Islamic lectures, Quran recitations, reminders that just keep you grounded. And not necessarily things that could possibly relate it to the deen, but just be mindful as to what you're being exposed to on social media. Because let's be honest, we all, one way or another, use social media excessively. I'm telling you, I've tried all the social media, what do they call it? Detoxification. I don't know what they call it, but when you're trying to kind of get rid of social media, but we turn around and we end up getting into that loop of getting back to social media for a certain reason. So just try to be mindful a bit of what you're being exposed to, and that could possibly help. And a simple rule to follow: if it's not helping your heart, it's probably harming it. Third, surround yourself with the right environment. And this is such a key factor I cannot stress enough on, because it's such a huge role in your faith. Wallah, your surroundings, they play a huge role in your faith. Even if you're trying your best, even if you're constantly in an environment that doesn't support your growth, it becomes so much harder to stay firm. If you don't have people around you who remind you constantly of Allah, look for them. Question those around you. Your closest friends, like in Arabic we say, as-sahib sahib. Your friend is someone that drags you around. Subconsciously, you will get to be doing the same things that they're doing. Why? Because you're surrounded by them most of the time. And you won't be aware of what you're doing. You'll kind of automatically will be doing what they're doing. So kind of filter those around you, your friends, your people, your surrounding, your circle, and try to make them people who are righteous, in terms that they are someone, as I said, remind you of Allah. Some examples could be joining a halaqah, maybe, engage in Islamic study circles, or even just find a friend who shares your goal of staying connected to Islam, you know? Or worst case scenario, if you can't do these, you can possibly try to change your friends, try to inspire them, try to influence them, try to talk them through it. If they're not someone who are constantly reminded of Allah, try to be that person who constantly reminds them of Allah. If they're not someone who prays their 5 prayers, remind them, tell them, let's go to pray. It's time to pray. Be that person who drags your friend to pray, you know? And alhamdulillah, I'm very thankful for my friends, but I feel like sometimes when I get caught up with work, sometimes our work in architecture can be insane. You can work for hours without actually feeling like they're hours because you're too invested in what you're working. And subhanAllah, sometimes I forget to pray, you know? But alhamdulillah, with my friends around, they constantly remind me, like, stop working and get off and pray and then get back, you know? They kind of, they are the alarms, they are the reminders for my prayer, alhamdulillah, and I'm very thankful for them. And some also can like remind me that some actually inspire me. Okay, I feel like I'm taking a moment to just talk about my friends, but some actually inspire me to dress even modestly, you know? Like, subhanAllah, I have few friends who, the way they wrap their hijab or the way they're dressed is just so modest that it inspires me to kind of work on the way I dress. And that alone feels like, okay, I did a right choice of choosing my friends. Like, alhamdulillah, I didn't necessarily choose them, or like, I didn't exactly, choose them. But like, like, alhamdulillah, Allah blessed me with such righteous friends. And they play a huge, like, role in trying to get closer to my faith. And trust me, if you don't have a strong Muslim surrounding or community around you, try to create an environment for yourself, even if it's through online spaces, books, or whatever, personal reflections, because having someone around you that is close to their faith will actually be the biggest factor that would push you to be closer to your faith. Subhanallah. Fourth and last thing is making dua for consistency. I remember I had a halaqah the other day with my teacher or instructor, and we were talking about just, things fitan that are going around in this world and in this time. And I just felt very concerned, and I felt very fearful. Like, this world has felt like it's full of traps, and sometimes it's impossible to get away from. Like, no matter how hard you try, but they're just like a trap after another, and you fall easily into them. And then my teacher told me that she reminded me of this dua that Prophet ﷺ mentioned, was that Ya muqallib al-qulub thabbit qalbi ala dinik, O turner of the hearts, keep my heart firm upon your religion. And I think this is a very important dua to say often in this time, that we need to try our best to hold firmly onto our religion and our deen. Because reality is, we can try our best, but without Allah's help, we truly won't succeed. And ask Him sincerely to help you stay firm, to make your heart love what pleases Him, and to make it easy for you to resist what pulls you away. So to remind you again, Ramadan is truly a gift, honestly, with everything in it. And it's a beautiful chance for all of us to reset. And now we're in the 16th day. I don't think you're gonna listen to this on the 16th day. God knows when I'm going to upload this. But you're probably gonna be listening to this at some point in Ramadan. No matter where you are or where you've reached in Ramadan, take this as a chance to reset and to reconnect if you haven't throughout Ramadan. And try to feel that peace of being close to Allah. And make sure that the real test isn't in Ramadan, it's in the days that follow. Will we hold on to what we gained, or will we let it slip away? Because the world might be distracting, but our connection with Allah is worth fighting for. Let's not wait until next Ramadan to feel that closeness again. Let's hold on to it now, even in small ways, because every step to Allah is truly worth it. And inshallah, may Allah reward us all in the akhirah. And I hope the remaining of Ramadan is full of blessings for you all. And thank you for listening. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And until next time, inshallah. Thank you.